night I realized I'd really lost him. My baby sister was standing in front of our parents' dining room window, and his hand was wrapped around hers the way it used to wrap around mine. That was the moment I learned you can be replaced in someone's life, and in your own family, without anyone ever saying the word goodbye. Dear Heartlines, Love Story Radio. My name is Olivia. I'm 30 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas, in the United States. I'm writing this letter because I did what a lot of people online say you should do. I broke up with the man I loved so I could work on myself. I thought I was being mature, wise, even brave. I told myself if we were meant to be, we'd find our way back to each other, when we were both better, healthier versions of ourselves. Instead, he found his way back, holding an engagement ring, standing in my parents' dining room, next to my little sister. I wish I could tell you this is a simple story about betrayal and villains. That would be easier to live with, but the truth is messier. And some days, when I can't sleep, the question that keeps me awake is whether I opened the door for all of this when I asked for that break in the first place. I guess I should start at the beginning, before self-help podcasts, before the break, before the ring back when it was just me, my sister, and a guy we all thought would be part of our family one day. I met Liam when I was 22, fresh out of college and convinced that adulthood meant working late, drinking too much coffee, and pretending I wasn't scared of anything. He was the opposite of the chaos I was creating for myself. Where I was anxious and overthinking, Liam was steady, grounded, the kind of man who showed up 5 minutes early with your favorite drink without making a big deal about it. We met at a friend's birthday party in a crowded Austin bar. I remember standing by the window because it was the only place the noise felt bearable. He walked up, leaned next to me, and just said, "You look like you're trying to escape without actually leaving." It made me laugh, which was rare back then when my head was always spinning with worry about my job and my future. From that night on, we became us. We did all the cliché things. Taco truck dates, late night drives with the windows down, sharing dreams on cheap bar stools and nicer restaurant patios as we grew older, and our paychecks got a little less embarrassing. My little sister, Chloe, loved him from the start. Chloe was 19, then bright, bubbly, a nursing student who seemed to float through life with this easy warmth I've always envied. She would join us sometimes when we had dinner at my parents' house. I still remember the first time she looked at us and said, "You guys are totally going to get married." I call maid of honor. We all laughed. It felt obvious that she was right. My parents adored him. My sister adored him. I built so many futures in my head where his last name quietly attached itself to mine. For 6 years, we were together. 6 years of birthdays, job changes, 2 apartments, 1 almost breakup that we survived, and endless conversations about eventually moving in together officially, eventually getting married, eventually maybe having kids. But somewhere around year 5, I started to change in a way I couldn't explain. I was burned out. I'd taken a promotion at work that looked great on paper and felt like a slow, quiet suffocation in real life. I was snapping at people, crying in my car, waking up with my heart racing at 3 a.m. for no reason. Liam tried to be there for me. He really did, but I kept feeling like I was failing him, failing myself, failing everyone. I started reading all these threads and posts and listening to podcasts that said, "If you're not okay, you shouldn't be in a relationship. You need to fix yourself first." I took those words like a prescription, not realizing how blunt they really were. One night, after another argument where I accused him of not understanding me, when I barely understood myself, I said the sentence that would change everything. "I think we need a break so I can work on myself." He stared at me for a long time, and I could see the hurt in his eyes, but also something else, like he was tired too. "Are Are you asking for a break? Or for an ending you just can't say out loud yet? That was only the second time in 6 years where I truly didn't know how to answer him. We talked for hours that night about therapy, about space, about how I felt like I was losing myself and dragging him down with me. In my mind, asking for a break was an act of love. If I stepped back and did the work on myself, started therapy, changed careers, figured out my anxiety, then I could come back to him as the version of me he deserved. After a long silence, he finally said, "If we do this, Olivia, we're not pressing pause. Life won't stop for us. Are you sure this is what you want?" I told him I was sure. I wasn't, but sometimes pride sounds a lot like certainty. We agreed on rules, like people do in movies. We'd stay in touch lightly, but give each other space. No dating other people for a while. We'd check in after a few months and see where we were. Chloe was the first person I told. She came over the next morning, still in her scrubs from a night shift. I watched her face change as I explained everything. "Liv, are you sure? You love him. He loves you. Can't you work on yourself with him?" I remember feeling defensive, like I was being judged. I told her about all the posts and advice I'd seen, about how staying together while I was this broken would be selfish. She just hugged me and said, "Okay, then I'm here. For both of you, I guess." I didn't think much about that last part. It sounded sweet, not dangerous. Over the next few weeks, Liam still came by my parents' house sometimes. He'd drop off something I forgot at his place, or help my dad with a small repair he'd promised to do. Sometimes I went over if Chloe texted me that they were all having dinner. And Chloe was there a lot. She and Liam had always gotten along. But now I started noticing how often they were texting. At first, it made me feel relieved, like at least he had someone he could talk to who knew our family, who knew me. I told myself, it's good that he has people. I shouldn't be the center of his life while I'm trying to fix mine. Maybe someone listening has done that too. Push someone toward other people because you are afraid of needing them too much. If I'm honest, there were tiny flashes that bothered me. The way he laughed at her jokes in a way that used to be reserved for me. The way she knew about things happening at his job that I hadn't heard about yet. But every time my stomach tightened, I reminded myself that I was the one who asked for distance. I was the one who walked away, temporarily. I just never imagined that the space I created would be exactly the size of my sister. The break stretched out longer than either of us originally said. I started therapy. I changed roles at work. Slowly, I began to feel like I could breathe again. I wasn't fixed, whatever that even means, but I wasn't drowning anymore. We still texted sometimes. Little check-ins, memes, a hope your day is okay. Here and there. There were weeks we barely talked. Months where I'd convince myself it was over. And then he'd send a song we used to love, and the hope would flare up all over again. I told my therapist I wanted to reach out and ask where we stood. She suggested I take time to write down what I wanted. Not from him, but from my life. So I made lists. What I'd changed. What I still needed to work on. What being with him again would actually look like now that we weren't 22 and pretending adulthood was just an aesthetic. In my head, there was still this future where I'd knock on his door. We'd talk for hours. Maybe cry, maybe laugh, and somehow we'd choose each other again. In the meantime, life kept happening around me in ways I didn't fully see. Chloe started working more shifts at the hospital and spending more evenings, helping a friend move, going out with coworkers, or grabbing a drink after a long day. Whenever Liam came up, she was neutral, kind. She'd say things like, "I talked to him the other day. He seems okay, just busy." I didn't ask many follow-up questions. Part of me was scared of the answers. One afternoon, I ran into an old friend from high school at the grocery store. We did that awkward small talk dance, and then she dropped a line that lodged itself under my skin. Even though I pretended not to care in the moment. She said, "Oh, I thought I saw Liam downtown the other night. He was with some girl. But I guess that makes sense since you guys are on a break, right? I smiled. I made a joke. I said something like, well, life goes on, doesn't it? But when I drove home, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't ask him about it. I told myself I didn't have the right. I was the one who walked away. Besides, we never actually said we were exclusive during the break. We just implied it. You can probably feel how much Olivia is carrying by this point. Guilt, pride, fear, and that quiet hope she's almost afraid to look at directly. But she still hasn't told us what actually happened the night everything came crashing down. About a year after the night I asked for the break, my mom called. She sounded excited in that high, breathless way she gets when she's happy and anxious all at once. She said we were having a special family dinner on Sunday. Dress nicely, she added. We have big news to celebrate. A thought darted through my mind that I immediately crushed. What if it's about me and Liam? What if he told them we're getting back together? I pushed it away. It felt too ridiculous, too hopeful. I didn't know that I was driving toward the last version of my family I would recognize. It was one of those perfect Texas evenings, warm but not unbearable. Golden light spilling through my parents' big kitchen window. When I walked in, my dad was setting the table, humming under his breath. My mom was fussing over candles she almost never used. And then I saw him. Liam was standing by the dining room window. Suit jacket on. Hair a little shorter than I remembered. Face a little older. A little sharper. For a second, my brain forgot about the passage of time. All I saw was my person. My heart pounded so loudly that I barely heard my mom say, "Oh good, you're here. We were just waiting on Chloe to finish getting ready." Liam smiled at me soft, careful. We hugged, and it was like hugging a memory. Familiar and foreign at the same time. We made small talk in the kitchen. My parents flitting back and forth. I kept waiting for some signal. Some hint that this dinner was about us. That we were about to announce a new beginning. Instead, Liam cleared his throat, took a deep breath, and said he had something important to share with the family. Time slowed. I watched him reach into his pocket and pull out a small velvet box. But he didn't look at me. He looked toward the hallway where my sister was standing. Chloe walked in wearing a dress I'd never seen before, soft blue, her hair done in loose waves, eyes shining with a nervous kind of joy. She came to stand beside him. They exchanged a glance that answered every question I hadn't dared to ask for months. Liam opened the box to reveal a ring I'd once have imagined on my own hand. I wanted to tell you all together. Chloe and we're engaged. My mother's hands flew to her mouth. My dad blinked like he'd misheard. And me? I felt my stomach drop straight through the floor. It was as if every version of the future I'd quietly been saving in the back of my mind shattered all at once. I don't remember what I said in those first few seconds. I don't know if I said anything at all. I just remember the sound of my mom crying, my dad hugging them, the clink of glasses, the word congratulations floating around the room like confetti and ash. At some point, Chloe pulled me aside into the hallway. Her face was flushed, and her eyes were already full of tears. "Liv, I was gonna tell you. I swear. It just happened. We got close when you two were on a break, and then we didn't know how to say anything without hurting you." I stared at her, the sister who shared my childhood bedroom, my clothes, my secrets. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to laugh at how twisted it all was. Instead, I heard myself say words that tasted like metal. "If you're happy, that's what matters, right?" But what I was really thinking was, if I hadn't asked for that break, would this be happening? Later that night, after everyone had left and my parents were pretending not to notice how quiet I was, Liam knocked gently on my old bedroom door. He stepped inside, closed it behind him, and leaned against it like he used to. I never meant to hurt you. I swear. When we took that break, I thought maybe that was your way of letting me go. I asked him if he'd loved me when I asked for space. He said yes. I asked him if he loved her now. He said yes. I kept waiting for you to say you wanted me back, Liv. But you were always still figuring yourself out. And Chloe was there. She listened. She saw me. And at some point, it just shifted. That was line 7. I don't know why my brain counted it, but it did the 7th time in this whole story that someone spoke words out loud that pierced straight through me. I could have told him then that I still loved him. I could have told her that I felt betrayed. I could have told my parents that I wasn't okay. Instead, I did what I've always done when things hurt too much. I swallowed the truth, smiled for everyone else, and let the grief gnaw at me in private. The night they announced their engagement, I lay in my childhood bed, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the echoes of laughter from downstairs and thinking, this is what happens when you step out of your own life and assume it will be waiting exactly the same when you're ready to return. I didn't go to their wedding. I told them I needed more time, that I loved them both too much to pretend I was okay, standing there smiling in photos I'd never want to look at again. Some people in my family think I'm being dramatic. Others quietly understand, but don't say much. My parents hover in the middle, trying to be happy for one child without losing the other. Chloe and I text sometimes. Surface-level things. Work, mom's birthday, a funny video. Every now and then she sends a longer message, apologizing again, telling me she misses how we used to talk about everything. I still haven't found the version of myself who knows how to respond honestly. As for Liam, we don't talk now. I see glimpses of their life together through social media. A new apartment, a dog, weekend trips, little snapshots of the life I thought we'd share. I'm still in therapy. I still work on myself, my anxiety, my boundaries, my tendency to put everyone else's comfort ahead of my own truth. Sometimes I wonder, if I hadn't taken that break, would he have stayed? Or did the break just reveal something that would have happened eventually anyway, that the person who truly fit his life was standing in my parents' kitchen all along, just a few years younger and a little bit softer around the edges? I don't know. And I'm slowly learning that some questions don't have satisfying answers, even when you replay every detail 1,000 times. What I do know is that I'm not the same woman who whispered, if you're happy, that's what matters, while her heart was breaking in two. I'm not fully healed, but I'm more honest, more awake, more aware of the ways I abandoned myself long before anyone else did. I don't know yet what forgiveness will look like, for them or for me. I don't know if there will come a day when I can sit across from my sister and her husband and feel only gratitude that they found each other. Right now, my victories are smaller. I can walk past a jewelry store without imagining a ring that was never mine. I can hear "we were on a break" jokes without flinching. I can look at my reflection and see someone who's still worthy of love, even if the first person she imagined forever with didn't choose her in the end. I'm writing this letter to Heartlines because I don't want my story to just be about losing a man to my sister. I want it to be about what I do next, about the woman I become after the kind of heartbreak that rearranges everything you believed about love, family, and timing. Maybe someone listening has done what I did, walked away to work on yourself, trusting the universe to hold your place in someone's life. If that's you, I want you to know, you're not crazy, and you're not cursed. You're just human. And sometimes, the cost of choosing yourself later is realizing you should have chosen yourself and your truth much earlier. That's the part I'm still learning how to live with. Olivia. Thank you, Olivia, for trusting us with a story that sits right at the intersection of self-love, timing, and a kind of betrayal that cuts in two directions at once. On one side, there's the part of you that tried to do the right thing. You didn't cheat. You didn't play games. You didn't string anyone along. You stepped back because you felt broken and you didn't want to bleed on someone you loved. That came from a place of care. even if the way you did it wasn't perfect. On the other side, there's the reality you're living with now. While you were working on yourself, life kept moving. Your sister and your ex didn't freeze in place. They connected, bonded, and crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. What hurts so much is that they did it inside what used to feel like your safe space, your family. Here's something important. You didn't cause this just by asking for a break. What you did was reveal the truth of everyone involved. A break can be a pressure test. If two people are deeply committed and aligned, space can actually strengthen what's there. It gives both of you room to breathe and grow, and you come back with clearer eyes. But if someone is already half out the door, or open to being soothed and seen by whoever is nearby, the break becomes a doorway. Liam walked through that doorway. So did Chloe. That's on them. They had choices at every step. They could have kept stronger boundaries. They could have said, "This feels like more than friendship," and it wouldn't be fair to Olivia. They could have chosen to wait until things were clearly over, and to tell you earlier, more honestly. They didn't. That doesn't erase the love they might genuinely feel for each other now, but it does mean the way this unfolded was careless with your heart. At the same time, your pain is making something very clear. You were used to abandoning your own truth to keep the peace. You swallowed your feelings at the engagement dinner. You minimized your grief so your parents could celebrate. You kept the focus on their happiness because somewhere along the way, you learned that being the strong one meant disappearing when things hurt. The work in front of you now isn't to rewrite the past. It's to make different choices with that pattern. That might look like letting yourself grieve the relationship and the version of your sister you thought you had, without rushing to be understanding. Being honest in therapy about the anger, not just the sadness. Setting boundaries. It's okay that you didn't attend the wedding. It's okay to limit contact while you heal. You're not obligated to play the role of supportive sister while your own wounds are still open. Redefining self-work. It isn't about stepping out of your life and hoping love waits. It's about learning to stay present in your life, speaking up, asking for clarity, telling someone you love them now, not in some perfect future version of yourself. You're afraid this will be the story of your life, but stories keep going. They get new chapters. They evolve. Right now, your chapter is called Loss and Rebuilding. In a year, it might be new chances or learning to trust again. That doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means you won't always be standing in that dining room watching their announcement on repeat. To anyone listening who hears echoes of their own life in Olivia's, you're allowed to take space to heal. But try not to disappear from your own decisions. Don't outsource every choice to fate or timing. Say the hard things out loud, even if your voice shakes. You can work on yourself and still ask, where do we stand? You can protect your heart without pretending it doesn't exist. Olivia, you haven't failed at love. You're just standing in one of its most painful classrooms. And you're already doing the bravest thing, telling the truth about it. If you were in Olivia's place, what would you have done the night of that family dinner? Would you have stayed silent? Or would you have spoken up even if it broke the room apart? Have you ever stepped back to fix yourself, only to watch the person you loved move on faster than you expected? Maybe even with someone close to you? Do you think you could forgive a sibling for falling in love with your ex? Or would that always feel like a line that shouldn't be crossed? How did Olivia's letter make you feel tonight? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your own stories in the comments. You've been listening to Heartlines, Love Story Radio. I'm Claire Hart, your narrator. Thank you for spending your time with me. If these stories keep you company, feel free to subscribe and tell me where in the world you're listening from. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll meet you again in the next story. Heartlines.